Hello and welcome back to Frogboy X1 Gaming. I'm Andrew and we are looking at Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart versus Halo Infinite. So this was highly requested, so I think this is probably the last one I'm going to do. So on the right we have Halo Infinite, obviously. On the left we have Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. So we're just gonna kind of look at these. I went to a few areas on Halo Infinite. Halo Infinite, the world obviously looks pretty much. I mean, yeah, it looks a lot the same. You know, when you get inside, like structures and everything else starts to look different. The biggest problem that you can find with Halo is the distant pop-in, like when you're in a vehicle, stuff like that. You can see a lot more pop-in when you're flying around in the jets. There's a section with that in here that we'll talk about. I really wish they could find a better way to deal with that. But there you go, man. These are both running side by side. CrossGen game versus the NextGen game. So, I mean, how do they really hold up against each other? Does Ratchet and Clank really pull that far ahead? Can Halo Infinite hold its ground? Well, let's see. I got some textures. Loading times, like I've said before, Ratchet and Clank, freaking phenomenal. Transferring from place to place on Halo definitely adds a little bit of a loading time to it, but for the most part, not too much. I mean, the reason why these videos are 30 minutes is because I wanted to get as much freaking information that I could from Ratchet and Clank. So, I'm going to talk about Ratchet and Clank here for a minute, okay? This world right here is pretty freaking small up on the surface. So when we get over here to the other side, you're going to see like some really heavy use of ray tracing. So like this is all ray tracing. Everything you see on this is all ray tracing. But here in a minute I'll pull up the map and I'll show you. You know, I mean, all of this is basically real ray tracing on here. It's a smaller level, so it's easier for the Ratchet and Clank engine to go ahead and produce that. Halo Infinite at the time of this recording does not have ray tracing. It's supposed to come in a later patch. Don't know if that's ever going to happen. So right now, Ratchet and Clank definitely wins on the ray tracing part because it does have ray tracing. And I think that is pretty much exclusive to these smaller environments, you know, places like Nefarious City. All of the things that, you know, make it easier for it to do that. So, that does win on that, the 30 FPS. So, but on Halo Infinite right here, you get pretty close to native 4K at 60 frames a second. So, to me, that kind of evens out. I would much rather have 60 frames per second at 4K than 30 frames per second with ray tracing at 4K checkerboard. So, that there, I mean, like, you guys asked for this, man. You asked for these, not me. I mean, like, fanboys need to be put in their place, man, because me personally, I really don't think Xbox first-party games are that far off from what PlayStation first-party games look like, man. PlayStation has got one whole generation on Xbox. One whole generation. At least 7 years since the PlayStation 1 to the Xbox, till that first Xbox launch. So the fact that Xbox developers are even this close should tell you something. Really, should definitely tell you something. The fact that they can pull off something this freaking beautiful, that speaks volumes to me. Other people might not look at that and be like, oh yeah, that makes sense, but like, that makes sense to me. this is Xbox's 4th generation. Like, this is the 4th Xbox generation. This is the 5th PlayStation generation. They should be miles ahead. They should be a whole generation ahead in terms of visuals and everything. Gosh, I don't think this is... I really personally do not think this is a generation ahead in terms of visuals. I don't. And this is a cross-gen game. This Halo Infinite runs on the 3rd generation of Xbox. So that to me just sounds like, yeah, dude. I mean, that to me is very interesting to see that, you know, Xbox first-party devs are starting to make games that are pretty much on par with what PlayStation first-party has got going, you know, right now. I mean, would Halo Infinite really hold up to like a Naughty Dog or a Sony Santa Monica, or, you know, one of the like Guerrilla Games? I don't know. I mean, we'll find out. We're gonna have a Guerrilla Games here in a couple months. We'll have a remastered Naughty Dog game coming out at the end of this month for PlayStation as well. We'll have what else are we gonna have? We're gonna have Gran Turismo. I mean, all of the PlayStation first-party heavy hitters are going to be hitting, and they're all going to be cross-gen, so they are definitely fair comparison to Halo Infinite and Forza Horizon 5. Definitely fair. But as it sits right now, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart is the only heavy-hitting next-gen. I mean, I guess we could put Halo Infinite up against Returnal as well. I mean, I have Returnal. I could definitely make a recording of Returnal, because that there is a next-gen only game that, you know, I mean, like, we can definitely do that. We can do other comparisons, but I mean, like, when you're looking at the environment here on Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart versus what you're seeing over here on Halo Infinite, yeah, I don't know, man. Like, I personally like the way the Halo Infinite looks better. Like, I do. I like the way that this looks better. Yeah, there's some stuff on Halo that could definitely look a little better, especially like with the pop-in and all of that other stuff. But for the most part, I have very few complaints with Halo Infinite or Ratchet and Clank for that matter. Like, I don't really have many complaints about those. But for people to say that Xbox games are complete trash when they look like, in this case, I think Halo looks better than Ratchet and Clank. But I mean, when they're like really like hammering at their heels after only being on their 4th generation, I mean, like, oh boy, like that's pretty interesting. And then you got third-party companies, you know, third-party developers like Guardians of the Galaxy, you know, beating freaking Ratchet and Clank easily. I mean, that game clearly beats Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart easily. I mean, I think Forza Horizon 5 is the best looking game. I think Guardians of the Galaxy is 2nd. I think Halo Infinite is 3rd. Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart probably the 4th game released this year that looks really good. And then there's definitely other games out there that are at least a tie with Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart easily. Gosh, if you want my honest opinion, man, I think Sackboy looks better than Ratchet and Clank in a lot of ways. At least world design, at least textures and world design and everything else. I think Sackboy definitely looks better than Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart's world. But Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart is where it really shines, is in the cutscenes. The cutscenes are what clearly everybody is talking about. And I personally don't feel like cutscenes give you the whole picture. Or something like Halo Infinite, you know, this looks pretty freaking good all across the board in the outworld, man. That's what matters. The moment-to-moment gameplay, that's what matters. How does that hold up? How does that look? Because I mean, I think the cutscenes in in Halo Infinite are pretty dang good. Definitely, I mean, I would probably give the win to Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart for the cutscenes, and that's just because of like the stutter in Halo. But I mean, they're clearly two different types of game. I think that I think that the that Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart cutscenes are definitely more polished. Um, but as far as Halo Infinite's cutscenes go, they do look pretty dang good, man. They're on par. They definitely are on par, like close to what Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart has. Now, I mean, like this one here is a little bit harder to compare Halo Infinite to Ratchet and Clank, but is it really? I don't know. I mean, look at the beauty of this world and the draw distance on Halo Infinite. Like, there's just, I mean, when you're looking down into that quarry over there, you can still see texture. Like, the texture still looks good. Like, it doesn't look like a blurry mess. Like, down there on the ground down there, like right there, yeah, that does not look like a blurry mess on a 4K TV. Like, it looks really good. And it looks like it's got a textured, like a dirt look. I mean, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart definitely looks good. Definitely holds up really well for the most part. But when it comes to Halo Infinite, that finer grain detail, like the finer texture levels, to me that looks better. To me that definitely looks better. I would much rather look at those textures than the textures that Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart is showing. They are clearly better on Halo Infinite. Clearly better than what Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart is offering. Like right here, we're gonna get over here. Boom. Those textures to me, they just look better than what Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart has. Now, I mean, the world out on this that we're going to be going to after this Ratchet and Clank world, I mean, I went and flew around trying to go as far as I could on the map, just because like these maps on Ratchet and Clank are so small that you would expect them to be highly detailed. You know what I mean? They're so small. They're not taking up that much room. There's literally virtually no pop-in on Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. And that has a lot to do with it. I mean, the world size is pretty small. They should be able to not have pop-in. With Halo Infinite's world being a lot larger, yeah, you're definitely getting pop-in. But that is one of those things that I was really hoping that we were going to get rid of this generation. And there's pop-in in Forza Horizon 2. They're both bigger open world type setting games. So while right now with the CrossGen games, that's acceptable. But Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart has set... Oh, wait. I just saw popping on a Ratchet and Clank. Maybe it's not perfect. Maybe on this flying around you can see it better. Well, for the most part, I think Ratchet and Clank is set kind of like the expectation, for popping. But I don't know if that's going to translate to bigger open world games. Once these games start fully utilizing the full potential and full power of both of these consoles, I think we're going to see things that we're like, wow, man, like all of this nitpicking that we're doing right now is literally just nitpicking that we're doing right now. Because we haven't really seen anything that either of these consoles can do. I mean, I'm pretty sure that this Halo's not using all the features, because this could be so much better, faster loading, everything. Like this could be world yeah, like I mean this could be a lot better. But look at that draw distance. Just like look how clean that looks on Halo Infinite. Like the whole thing just looks super clean. It looks crisp, it looks sharp. You're not getting that on Ratchet and Clank. You're getting fog. You're getting fog everywhere you go out in the distance, like a lot of fog. On Halo it's not as much. I mean, the clarity of this water, the sky, the draw distance of the ring, I mean, this is what a $15 a month Game Pass subscription will get you, or $60 on the Halo Infinite. And you get a free multiplayer mode as well. So when you say, I mean, like, look at the value and stuff. I mean, Halo Infinite is a beautiful game. no matter how you look at it, like Halo Infinite is beautiful. It really shines. It's really crisp. It's really clean. It does Halo justice. It looks like a Halo game. Ratchet and Clank. Ratchet and Clank is by far the best looking Ratchet and Clank game we've ever seen, and it lives within that style. It does exactly what it needs to do as a Ratchet and Clank game. It is by far one of the most beautiful. Sorry about my yawning, man. I've been I've been doing this. I've been up since like 5 o'clock this morning, trying to make this content, trying to do things, and just playing a lot of games and looking at stuff. And oh, my goodness, guys, my goodness, man. I really don't like the whole console war stuff on this channel. But I am not going to sit there and have people just completely, you know, put Xbox, like say Xbox games are trash. Like that's not cool, man. Like clearly this Halo Infinite looks freaking good compared to Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. I mean, they're right here on the same screen. I can see both of them, and they both look good. They both look fine. I don't understand how one is trash and the other one's not. Like, I don't get that. That does not make any sense to me whatsoever. I mean, this looks a lot closer than a lot of people would like to give Xbox credit for. If you ask me, like it does. It looks a lot closer than anybody wants to give Xbox credit for. Like, look at that freaking vista on Halo. Like, that is freaking beautiful. Literally beautiful, man. The biggest problem is the pop-in of the trees. Like, you could see, like, the trees popping in. Just pop, 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 pop. Like, I mean, that's the biggest problem I have with the way the Halo presentation. I mean, I haven't seen really any pop-in on Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. That is definitely one thing that I commend it for, man. Like, the pop-in on that game is pretty minimal if it is there. I mean, I guess I can't say that. I have seen a little bit of pop-in, but it's not like super noticeable. But then again, you're never really going fast enough to really see pop-in. Like, let's watch this part right here where we're going fast. I mean, are we seeing shadows or anything pop in? I mean, no. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, you got some really good... I mean, like, there's some really cool effects, but I mean... Yeah, I don't know. I'm not really seeing a ton of pop-in. Not as much as the trees on Halo, for sure. But I mean, this is probably the most beautiful looking world on Ratchet and Clank. I mean, I like the way this world looks, but oh my gosh, you know what I mean? This is the biggest one. So I don't know what else to say. Like, it's Ratchet and Clank, man. It's a kid game. It looks like a kid game. I mean, a lot of people want to say it looks like a Pixar movie, but does it really? Like, this right here looks like Pixar. I mean, it looks good. But I mean, look at Halo compared to it. Like, you're trying to tell me that the Halo doesn't look as good as Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart? I don't know. I think they both look good, man. I think people just need to give... I really do just think people need to give, 343 and Xbox a little bit of freaking slack, man. Like, cut them some slack. They're putting out some really decent stuff. Like, I enjoyed my whole playthrough with freaking Halo Infinite. I enjoyed my whole playthrough with Ratchet and Clank. Come on, man. It's time to like grow up. Get rid of the whole freaking console war stuff, man. Like, Xbox is doing a dang good job. Look at this, man. That looks freaking beautiful. That looks beautiful. It looks clean. It looks sharp. It's got a nice color palette. The world design could definitely, hold up in terms of, against Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. I mean, like, yeah, dude, I don't see why people would. I don't understand why people would not give Ratchet and Clank Ratchet and Clank or Halo, I don't understand why people just completely dismiss Halo Infinite as not being a good game when, like, this is clearly a technical achievement. This game is running at 4K at 60 frames a second, and it looks good every step of the way. Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart can barely run at 40 frames a second at 4K. And that's checkerboard 4K, upscaled 4K. It's not even native 4K, so I don't understand how people can downplay what Halo has to offer and be like, oh yeah, Ratchet's better. Yeah, of course Ratchet looks amazing at 30 frames a second at 4K. Look at Halo at 60 frames a second. That looks pretty freaking good to me, man. If you're looking at this world next to that world, next to this world, like, dude, Halo Infinite looks freaking beautiful. It looks beautiful. It holds up. It definitely meets or exceeds the quality of Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart in every single way. In every single way. It does a great job. Your 60 frames, your 4K, your color palette's amazing. It has Dolby Vision support. Combat's fun, fast, and fluid. This is what $60 gets you. $60. Or a $15 a month battle or subscription. You can play this. You can beat it in like a couple of days, and then you can move on to different games, man. Like, you can literally play through the entirety of Halo Infinite. You can beat this game. You could probably, well, for $15, you could beat Forza Horizon 5, Halo Infinite, and play as many other games in 30 days for $15 as you can, and then cancel your subscription. And then when more stuff comes out that you want to play, you can pay $15 for it. Especially if you were one of those people that go and buy the game and then take it back to GameStop. Like, $15 for a lot of games, that sounds like a pretty good price, because for every game you buy from GameStop and take it back to GameStop, you could have paid for 2 months of Game Pass. You could have paid for 2 months. Now, Sony is a little bit harder, man. Like, you are paying that freaking full price for those games, and $70 or getting them on sale. Like, if you can get them on sale, that's probably a good thing. But man, we're gamers. We want to play this stuff day one when it comes out. We get excited about it when they talk about it. When they first show them off, we get excited about them. We want to play them. And then by the time they come out, man, if you have to wait another 6 months or another few months after already waiting with all that hype, and then watching people on YouTube play them and everything else, like, gosh dang, does that really I don't know, man. I would much rather just have a Game Pass subscription, so if I couldn't afford to pay for the game right then and there, I could just download it. I got into a pretty heated, well, not pretty heated, but I got into a battle, and I was like, oh man, I'm running out of ammo, and I don't really want to fight right now. I'm just trying to run around and look at the beautiful world. Not really get into the combat, but man, with Halo, like, you're bound to find combat all the time. Like, it getting a moment to, like, take a breather and, like, look around and stuff. Like, some of the other cool things about Halo Infinite, like, you get up somewhere high and then you jump off. When you start going down, like, the wind, when you've got your headphones on or something, it sounds so good. Or if you go stand over by like one of those, those fissures out there, my gosh, you can just hear the wind blowing through it, and it sounds so freaking cool. There's just so many cool things about Halo Infinite that, like, really set it apart from a lot of other first-person shooters that I've ever played. I mean, this thing is great. It looks great. It feels great. There's just, it really is nice. And I think I personally like the open aspect of it way more than a lot of other things. Like, this right here is pretty cool. It's not Like this right here, I was able to get through all of the Halo campaign and all of the Halo and like really enjoy that. But I mean, like I still haven't even completed Far Cry 6, man. The world is so big that I like this. And if they can make this an episodic thing where we'll get, you know, story content every year or something, you know, or every 6 months or every new season, that would be freaking cool. Like that would be amazing, because then I could sit and I could play through that, and then I could go back and play through some more. So yeah, over here on the Ratchet thing, we're definitely back to. I mean, the more I play these games, and the more I see what Xbox is doing, and how much Xbox is growing just since I've been playing them for the last 5 years. Uh, I am more satisfied most of the time with my purchases on third-party games and stuff on the Xbox than I am on PlayStation 5. And I do have a lot of the games that come out last year, for both. I have, you know, 2 copies of a lot of games, and I'm telling you, man, the Xbox version of those games just tends to hold up. Like, I know that Digital Foundry's like, oh yeah, man, these games are running better on the PlayStation 5, but honestly, man, that's pretty subjective. If you're getting a couple frames more at 1800p on the PlayStation 5 version, as opposed to a native 4K with 57 frames a second on the Xbox, man, that 200 resolution is a lot more. Well, that what 260p resolution is definitely a lot more meaningful than those one-off 2 or 3 frame drops every once in a while. Trust me, that really does make a bigger difference with that resolution than it does with a couple of frame rates. And if you've got a VRR TV, like, it doesn't even matter. I don't get what's going on with Digital Foundry these days. I mean, they claim to be the arbiter of, oh man, like these visuals are just blah blah blah. And I mean, when you really look at it, most of the stuff that they see, you don't have the tech to find. You don't have a frame counter, man. You don't have you're not gonna analyze your whole gameplay. You're not going to stick it on a PC and go through it frame by frame to find out if the resolution dropped 1 frame or not. Like, you're not going to do that. You're not going to notice it either. And that's the thing, man. It's like they pick apart these games, and yeah, I mean, because literally the only way to count the resolution is to pause or stop the motion. You have to have a still picture, and you have to go in there and you have to count all the little stair steps. You got to zoom it out, you got to zoom in so that you can see it, and then you got to count it, and then you got to times it, you know, or whatever by the screen width or whatever to get your resolution count. And trust me, you're not going to see that. And that's one of the things that have like really started to irritate me about these analyses, because most of the time you can't see. And honestly, 900p 1080p, like when they started doing this whole console war stuff that was making people like, oh yeah, man, mine's better because it's 1080p. Oh man, I've went back and looked at, you know, a lot of those day one launch Xbox One games, and man, to tell you the truth, I really do think that stuff like Rise, Son of Rome looked way better than Knack. Sorry, man, it looked way better than Knack. Or you know, some of them other games that came out, like, yeah, dude, like Xbox One had a rough start to the or had a good start to the generation, but then a rough mid part. And I could kind of see that happening with PlayStation now. I think these games being pushed back on the PlayStation was more strategic as well. Strategic, and they wanted to get more consoles out there, as well as, you know, they just needed to hold some stuff over so that they could actually get these things built. I'm pretty sure that at least Horizon was pretty good to go, pretty close. Gran Turismo was obviously ready to go, but then they had to push it back to put it on PlayStation 4. It's just those type of deals, man, that I think they delayed some stuff to fill in some holes, because clearly, what else did we have? And I mean, like, yeah, dude, they paid good money to get Deathloop out there and stuff. So yeah, there's things like that that really that really push things forward, and really that really made it so the PlayStation was going to be, so that PlayStation could have games. So I could definitely see them, missing out on some stuff this generation. So, well, here's the end of it. So if you like this content, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.